Would you believe me if I told you that 99% of Apex players didn't know how to move properly? Even at the pro level, strafing is such an underutilized mechanic study that can be an insane benefit to players. Hey guys, Wraith Crew here, and today I'm sharing with you a coaching session I had with one of my students where I cover some fundamentals of strafe and how to properly use it to help you aim, take less damage, and position better in fights. If you also want to, in the future, I can also review those VODs if you want. Well, I have a lot of like tournaments of I can also go all that shit. A lot of, especially from what I've seen from you, your aim isn't really like awful. Your aim is pretty solid. Most students' aim is pretty solid. I'm not gonna lie to you. Most people's aim is way better than they think it is in this game, but this game is just permadeath. Like Apex is just permadeath, right? Like you go down, you're out of the fight. There's no coming back at all. You can get rezzed, but it's very rare that you're able to actually continue to contribute after you get downed, right? So it's much less about aim and so much more about, you know, positioning during fights and how to actually move and shit like that. I talked to you about strafing before, so yeah. I'll build upon some of the strafe stuff I've talked to you about in positioning. We'll talk about macro positioning, aka like where you're positioned all in fights, how you're taking fights, how you engage with fights. Micro positioning in fights are more about like on the like cover to cover basis, how you're actually engaging with and stuff like that, right? And I'll talk to you a little bit about controller specific stuff close to the end of the session. But is there anything you feel like you've been struggling with more so lately than?
I think like positioning and like because sometimes I just get caught out and or like put myself in somewhere where I'm just like, oh, like it's unfavorable or like like I'm not like I'm going into like I'm playing like no fills and I'm not playing it smart. Yeah.
I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Are you solo queuing here?
Yeah, solo queuing.
You probably have the ability to no fill. At least do it. Videos would be difficult. But... You haven't dropped. Have you dropped to 20 yet or no? Yeah, I don't remember your stats.
I have, yeah.
Yes. Your looting is really fast, which is good.
I kind of forced myself to get into the habit of just looting and going.
It's a very good habit to have.
Yeah, because usually whenever I get into the habit of just looting
like
the entire game, I just my fucking gun skill just goes down.
You didn't really need to phase here.
Yeah, I think I fat fingered it there.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
And then you give the space on the inside and they have lifeline. I want to see how this plays out before they're talking about it. I want to see more. Very nice. You have really strong, solid fundamentals for strafing, aka like the basics, like you know, don't do the 80-80 strafing stuff like that. I've talked to you about that before, and you already knew a little bit going in. And one thing I want you to, one thing especially, oh I backed up way too early. Here, right? One thing I want you to focus on here, especially, this is higher level stuff, but it's going to be really important for you to actually, right? I want you to, so this Wraith is pinned against the wall, right? She only controls the space like this, right? She can only immediately go into this space right here. And then once she gets anywhere in this space, she can, you know, and by the extension, then get to like some space like this, right? Because, you know, when she moves, she has the ability to control more space, right? If you look at the space that you control, if you look at the space, you control space kind of like this, right? Like right here. Like you can walk forward, you can walk to the left here, right? What you want to do is you want to minimize her effective space that she can actually play, right? There's two things you want to. So when you're strafing against an enemy, there's typically two things you want to do. You want to avoid or you want to mitigate how much space the enemy can control, right? Because if an opponent has no space to control, right, they're stuck. They're pinned in a corner, or they're pinned against a wall, they're pinned against something, and they can't really move, right? Two, you want to try and get to an opponent's ankle. The angle is defined as is not just the opponent's, crosshair, right? The number one place we want to avoid is our opponent's crosshair. So we're in our opponent's crosshair, we're at the whim of their skill to actually hit us, right? We don't want to rely on that. We want to get out of the crosshair. That's the whole point of what strafing is, what strafing does, right? So if you strafe to the left here, not only are you attempting to you probably won't get the angle immediately because the Wraith you probably will track you as you do so. If you strafe to the left here, right, you have a chance of getting her at her side angle here, right? And if you are at the side of somebody, you mitigate all of their movement. So let's talk a little bit about that. If we draw two people, right, this is our enemy, and this is their field of view, right? And then let's draw you. Your field of view doesn't matter because just draw you here. Right?
Yeah.
When you guys are strafe dealing, right, against you're strafing against any competent opponent who knows left-right strafing, right? Their axis of movement is like this, right? They will be moving like this. You will be moving like this. And anything else other than this is typically less effective on strafing in accordance with geometry, right? Like if there's a box you want to go play like over here, obviously you're gonna go like this, right?
Yeah.
But we're talking about raw strafing, and like this, the situation up here, where you're on the roof here, is raw strafing. There's no cover to play. The only thing that there is a wall, right? There will be walls, right? But the important thing to understand is that sometimes, so if you are, if we stand at our opponent's side, if we stand here along our opponent's movement axes, if our opponent goes left or right, comparative to their perspective, they don't move at all for us, right? Well, it's like they're walking forward or backward at us, right? Obviously, this won't last for very long because the opponent will look at us unless we're getting the jump on them, right? But the important thing is, especially that this angle is really strong to take if there's multiple if your teammates here, right? So for example, if you're trying to like 2v1 this guy, right? You're like, this guy needs to die now, something like that. You jump on him, right? It's better, like out of all the positions you can take, it's better to take positioning like this, where one person's on the front or back, and one person's on the side, right? Rather than it would be for one person, or for you guys to do like, well, this, right? Or even like this, right? And that's all because of the movement axes, right? Because if you're here, right, if this guy strafes left or right, it's the exact same for both of you, right? Obviously, like this guy moves to the right, he's moving to the right. He's moving to the right for this guy and to the left for you, right? Like, obviously, it requires a little bit of luck for him to strafe really well against you. But there are situations where, it's hard to hit somebody because they're still just strafing normally, right? Even though you're behind the guy. If you're at the side of somebody, no matter what movement this guy makes, right? Because if he moves left, right, if he moves left, right, you kill him. If he moves forward or back, your teammate kills him, right?
Yeah.
The only option this guy has is diagonals, which aren't good to do in a lot of situations because diagonals typically cover less space, less distance. The best thing this guy could do is go this way, right? Because if he goes this way, he's walking at you. This way, he's walking at like kind of at both of you. He's walking directly into you guys, and then he's walking this way. He's walking toward this guy. This is the only option he has is go diagonally, right? But especially if our opponent is pinned against a wall, especially, right? Because imagine this guy's pinned against a wall right here, right? This guy's just fucked, right? This guy is just fucked no matter what. So it's important that when you are trying to engage against people, you want to understand how strafing can make fighting easier, right? If we're going to redraw this on the roof here, for purposes of the conversation, the ledge over here is a wall, right? It basically functions the same as a wall.
Yeah.
You can't walk into it. If you walk onto it, you would leave the battlefield. It's basically a wall. You are like right here. The opponent is right here, right? The opponent actually controls more space than you do. So if the opponent was, again, smart, what they would do is they would walk over here, cut you off, boom, you have no space to play. You have this box to play. And then you can strafe this way, sure, but that's pretty predictable is what you could do, right? And if you strafe this way, the opponent could be even better and strafe into you like this, and then boom, you don't have any space to play again at all, right? And in this situation, the first thing you want to do is to get out of this area where you have no control. You want to strafe like this over here, right? You strafe like this over here, and if the opponent tries to match you over here, you guys are going to be kissing in each other's faces, right? I want you to make sure that when you're strafing, you always try and take control of more space for free, okay? This is micro positioning. This is how you engage in fights. This will help you against controllers a lot because if you take away all of the luxury that controller has, it makes it way harder for controller players to actually shoot against you, right? So in this situation, you should strafe like this, pin this guy against the wall. This guy, this guy's movement options are limited to just left or right. If he hard moves in one direction, you just strafe aim him. If he doesn't move on a global bias, you focus on killing him. Okay, make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
The other important thing I want to talk to you about real quick is I think I might have talked to you about this a little bit before, but especially since I'm talking to you about strafing in the context of space control. If you guys are this far away from each other, right? Obviously, if you want to take control of, we'll call it the yellow space because it's very contested, right? All the space is very contested by both of you. You both can shoot it. You both can move into the area. All the space is contested, right? Obviously, to take control of the space, you shouldn't just walk forward, right? Because walking forward, you're dead. Duh, right? But any form of forward movement makes it very easy for you to get tracked. Okay, which is why a lot of the side to side movement like this is the strongest movement you can do, right? At least in the perspective of our opponent. Sometimes side to side movement is not AD strafing, but majority of the time it will be. Like our opponent's to our side, side to side movement is W and S, right? But that's when juggling multiple opponents, it becomes difficult. But the side to side movement is the strongest thing you can do because it makes you move the fastest, right? Any variation of this makes us move slower and manipulates our hitbox in a good way or a bad way, right? So if you think about all of the possible directions we can move, right? Our opponent's here. Any of these directions make us bigger, right? If we're trying to take space, we have to understand that we become a bigger and easier target to hit, right? And especially because we're moving perspectively slower to our opponent, we would be right here, right? Because if we're not moving, as fast as possible, or if we're moving at relatively the same speed, but perspectively wise, if someone's walking you diagonally, the person's moving slower, right? Make sense? And if we get close to somebody, we start getting bigger, right? Which is why walking forward at somebody is probably one of the worst things you can do. It makes it really easy for them to hit you, especially because against controller, especially the number one thing about controllers really strong is because they have minimal actuation required for the joystick to actually kill you, right? All they can do is literally like if you just 80 spam strafe, like they just have a rotational aim assist shit on you, right? So if you don't move a lot in perspective to their camera and you don't make them actually have to move their joystick, they can very easily just shit on you, right? Side to side is the fastest. Fast. These make us smaller, but also cost us a little bit of speed, right? Again, obviously perspective speed. You typically never want to engage forward like this. The only time you can is if your opponent is reloading. You have geometry to your advantage. You have some sort of movement like super glide or something you can do, but even then it's still moderately dangerous to do. You have to understand the prerequisites for doing so. Again, like the opponent reloading, the opponent not looking at you, things like that, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You want to disengage your opponent? You can always give up space, right? Because going backwards and getting smaller, sure you're moving slower, but backing up, making yourself smaller is really good, right? Obviously, it'll be a little bit hard for you to aim, but it's way easier for you to hit shots than it is for them to hit shots. They'll try to kill me. So if you're trying to, use your strafe to win in fights, which you obviously should be, you have a basic, you have a basic goal understanding. These are the things you need to be aware of, okay? You can basically never take space forward. The way we actually want to take space forward is the opponent is reloading, or we have an angle on the opponent, or we have some sort of line of sight breaking, okay? So you should have pinned this guy against the wall. You shouldn't have just AD strafed here, right? You shouldn't have just AD. And, like one, there's no global bias. Two, you can't really strafe aim somebody that doesn't have global bias. If the opponent has no global bias, you can't really strafe aim them. This guy was just dumb, and then literally you kind of just accidentally mirrored him. Drop down here. Good damage. When you're strafing is strafe aim, your strafing is really good. Really good. Okay, your guy just shit on them. Holy shit. This fight you play... Okay. Here, I would encourage you to heal. More so than try and peek again. Right? Eagle... I don't know if you've seen me talk about this. I don't know. I don't think I've talked to you about this specifically. But the golden rule of Apex is never be peaked by more than 1% at a time, right? Obviously, that does not mean never peak more than 1% at a time, because there are times where you should, and there are times where you get away with it, and those times are important to identify. But being peaked by more than 2 people at once, aka having more than 2 people, more than 1 person look at you, right? I'm here, right? Because you know one guy just zipped across. You know one guy's here somewhere, right? He didn't leave. You know he's somewhere here. So peeking into this when you're almost cracked is very dangerous, and yeah, it forces you to be absent from this entire fight, right? Just focus on healing there, and don't worry about outputting damage there. You're fine. Your teammates can support you. If they jump you, then focus on damage or drop down, right? But you kind of force yourself to be in a situation where you have to drop down anyway, even if they push you or don't push you. Good strafe there. The strafe was very good because you one goal bias. 2, obviously you strafe back into cover here to break LOS. Take it closer to him. You have an SMG of a wingman. You have an SMG as a wingman. It's very good to get close to him, and then you beat him. Very, very good there.
Right there, when you say global bias, I mean like more so when like I guess like more towards focusing more towards strafing towards the left.
Goal bias is the idea that when you strafe, you want to strafe in one direction more so than the other. It doesn't matter how you do it. It more so matters at the end result, right? Because so for example, what isn't global bias is this, right? There's no bias, right? There's no bias at all in this, right? Global bias looks something like this, right? Our right strafing is about the same length every time, sometimes a little bit shorter, doesn't matter, yeah. But our left strafes are always so much further, right? And this can be in any direction. This can be to the right, right? We can do this, right? We can do some shit like this. We can do whatever we want, right? It can be like a little bit. You have to have really good strafing off the bat. You can't get really good strafing later. You have to start with really good strafing. Simple strafing mistakes will get you killed. While walking forward is really bad a lot of time, because even if you just take a little bit of damage, it can just kill you, right? Global bias, you want to make sure that you're always strafing one direction more so than the other here. And also because with this, right, if we're strafing like this, we never go anywhere. We stay in the same spot, right? The same spot is here, right? But if we are here, right, and we need to get into cover over here, right, this isn't gonna do that, right? We're never gonna go anywhere, but this will, right? And this is global bias. It also gives unpredictability. Really good players will typically identify your goals. So for example, if you're fighting somebody who is here and they see that you're here and they're like, oh, you're probably gonna strafe to the box, and so they're going to, you know, they're going to use movement aim or movement reading skills to actually identify where you're gonna go and, you know, figure out, hey, how are you gonna strafe to get to the box? They're probably gonna, you know, read that like in their mind, but you can still outplay them through global bias and stuff like that, right? Make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now.
And then here you do a really good job here. You want the only thing I'll say with your aim is that this has to be something you consciously work on. You need to not snap with your aim every time you change direction. Okay. There's a lot less adjustment you need whenever you change your direction than you think there needs to be. Like right here, if we look at your aim when you are moving here, you see whenever you change direction, you snap and then like you snap back to target, which is good, but you adjust too much. Okay. It's important to understand. Do you know what movement acceleration slash deceleration is?
What is it? Like when you start inputting like the opposite direction, you start slowing down, right? And then
yeah, it's a law. It's basically like a physics law in the game engine that if you're going one way, to go the opposite direction, you have to hit 0 speed and then you go back to the other direction, right? This can apply left to right, forward to back, diagonals, whatever, right? Whatever direction, as long as it's just the opposite direction. It's important to understand. You have the velocity counter on, so you can really, you know, test this in the firing range, right? Your speed doesn't. So when you're moving, your strafing doesn't look like this, right? This is actually kind of an inaccurate depiction of how strafing looks. Strafing more looks like this, right? Because there's this small period in between where your movement speed is 0. And we're talking like 0.5 seconds, right? Not a long time. But that's also why doing 80-80 strafing like this is really bad. Other than that, you played this well. You missed out on, I would probably say, like two kills by not using your portal there, and you still like. I'm not even sure when you do use your portal. Yeah, it's last team here. You don't use your portal this game, right?
No, I don't. I think most of the time I'm gonna explain it. Like most of the time, I don't use my abilities all too much, like except for like at least with my ults and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I don't know, like I just shoot.
You like no. I totally understand. I actually genuinely totally understand. When I play pubs, I pick up 400 light ammo, and I'm just like I'm shooting shit, dude. I'm just shooting shit. If people were like, "Oh my god, Wraith, your inventory management's awful," I'm like, no, I just want to shoot people, dude. I don't care about using. But if I play ranked, you see I carry like 180 light ammo, like 1 stack of like sniper ammo, and then like 5 grenades on like a blue backpack. And people were like, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "Watch. And I get in a fight, I shoot my gun twice, and then things just die, right? Things just die." The important thing, obviously, this is a pub, and like shooting your gun is nice, but the whole thing, Wraith's abilities don't do anything. Wraith's abilities suck. All they serve is to help you shoot your gun better. Okay, what should you do here instead? Like, what direction should you move in? What should you try to do? Should you try and like near this guy? Should you try and like strafe into cover? Like, what should you do?
I think I should probably just like with the global wise towards the right to cut him off that side.
In here, yeah. You get the cover to play. If you get a considerable advantage in this fight though, like if you show this guy, like you like almost one clip him or whatever, because this guy is positioning. If you strafe this way, you're doing 2 things probably, right? One, this guy's going for cover, right? So if you go to cover, what are you doing? You're mirroring this guy, right? Not only are you mirroring this guy and maximizing your damage output, you're also strafing into cover. You are also going to cover, you're mirroring him, and you're denying him area. You're doing 3 really good things with a strafe like that, right? That's like the value of this strafe is probably one of the most high value strafes I've seen in a long time, and you don't really do it, and then you just kind of AD strafe in place. You don't do this AD strafing bullshit, okay?
Okay.
Your strafes are too tight. Your strafes are too tight anyway for it to be good AD strafing. Like a decent controller player would just fry you here. Okay. Overall, especially like your aim is fine. Your aim is completely fine in fights. Your aim has 0 problems at all. The only thing I'd really worry about with your aim is the conscious breakdown and understanding between movement acceleration and stuff like that. But the positioning during fights, you overall taking really strong positions. It's more so just ability usage that they probably need to work on. If I see you in a pub like this, you're probably not going to perform very well in like a high competitive environment / high level rank, right? That's probably one of the one things setting you back from getting like a really high rank, right? Because you're masters every season, from what I remember, right?
That's right, yeah.
I want to see. I assume you want pred in some aspect, right?
I would love it, yeah.
Yeah. Send me I want to see a ranked VOD from you. I want to see a ranked VOD. I want to see how you actually fight in ranked. I want to break down these fights between players that, okay, I wouldn't say they have a brain. A little generous, right? But I want to actually see how you approach these fights against players that shoot. Obviously I know ranked is really bad right now. Whenever you can, I would like a ranked VOD, or like even like a scrim VOD would be fine as well. Scrim / tournament, whatever.
Would you say it's better to do like a solo queue ranked VOD or like a fucking 3-stack?
Either one's fine. It's up to you. Whatever you play, whatever you normally do.
Okay.
But yeah. The next VOD I want to see from you is like a ranked VOD or something like that. I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to get you to pred realistic, or at least a pred level. I don't know if you can get the pred rank because that requires a lot of playtime, right? A lot of playtime and a lot of bullshit. I want you to be able to hold your own against pred players. If you get a ranked VOD where you play against preds, or even like 3 to 5 ranked VODs where you just die to preds, that would be like really good. Yeah.
Okay.
That would also be fine.
Yeah, I think you can probably do that.
Yeah, I think I probably died 3 to 5 times. If this video helps you out, it would mean the world to me if you subscribed, as it helps me reach more people with my educational content, and be sure to give a like. If you guys have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments below, and I'll answer whatever ones I can. Thank you guys for watching. If you stuck through the whole video, be sure to subscribe, and if you're interested in your own coaching session, be sure to check out my links in the description to book your own personalized coaching session targeted at your own weaknesses. I'll hopefully catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.